Hello.
Hello. What's your birthday?
October 15th, 66.
Cool. So do you support Trump?
Yes.
Really? And
What what you were speaking about is the Supreme Court case was only kind of filling out what the same privileges that presidents have enjoyed for quite a while. The only reason that they really had to reinforce all that is because we've seen how much lawfare going on with this president between the lawsuits and the made up cases and I mean on and on and on and on. So what they had to do was kind of reinforce the pretty much the rules that every president has had in the past. I don't think he gained any power because he can still be tried for personal crimes, but he can't. I mean, if you think about it, every time that you have a president in there from the opposite party, you can't have a state suing him and pressing charges on the opposite party, whether they're an R or a D. It would literally drag the system to an absolute stop because you get a Republican in there, you got Massachusetts pressing charges. You get a Democrat in there, then you got Ohio or Indiana pressing charges. It's pretty much the same powers that every president has. He didn't really gain anything. That if anything, they actually took it away because before most presidents were under a blanket immunity, assuming that their pardon power protected them. Well, the court went so far as to say that on personal crimes, on personal things that were not associated with the office, that the president could be sued. So they actually took away some of his power instead of giving him more, because every president before him would have never been thought of to been brought up in any kind of criminal charges. It was just a different time and a different. I mean, look at Nixon. Nixon was pardoned by Ford after he got caught with his hand in the cookie jar. So, if anything, they actually took away some of his power because they made it quite clear that he could be charged and could be prosecuted for acts that were not affiliated with the office.
so
That's never been laid out before for presidents.
so do you think he shouldn't be charged with taking the classified documents to Mar-a-Lago?
Well, when he had the power to remember, he had the power to declassify any piece that he had. That was solely in his power. So how are you going to say that the day before he wasn't allowed? And then you also kind of have to keep the same standard involved in all this because you had Biden shortly after him that had a whole garage full of stuff that he took while he was a senator, not even when he had the right to have the paperwork. So you have a president who has declassification power. He could have waved his hand over the paperwork instantly. And then remember, he still had security clearance and was still getting daily briefs from national security. So he still carried a security clearance.
I mean,
So
what about when Georgia wanted to charge him with trying to overturn the 2020 results?
well, that is funny that we are seeing now that Georgia admitted that there's 400 and some odd thousand votes that weren't voted on properly, and we do have the Georgia election. All the votes were enough to sign a search warrant to get them pulled into the FBI for investigation. So I'm kind of going to think that there might be something to it. I guess we got to wait and find out, but. The election board has already admitted that there was 47,000 votes that were illegally counted.
I don't.
There's a whole.
I haven't heard about that at all. All I know is Georgia's done multiple
Google it.
audits.
Just Google it. They'll tell you that there was 47,000 votes that were illegally counted. The election committee. I can't think of her name off the top of my head, but the election committee lady went before Congress and admitted that there was discrepancies in the balance. More so than he lost by 11,000 votes. There was 40 some thousand votes that were cast wrong. So just by the math, there's the potential for it to have been illegal.
Yeah, I'm
But
looking. I'm looking at it, and I'm showing that Georgia did a full hand recount, a machine recount, and an audit. And Biden's margin, which was about 11,000 for 779,000
right,
votes, was confirmed every time.
no,
And the state's own
keep reading.
Republican officials certified it.
They had more votes than they did. They had more ballots than they had voters. And then ask yourself another question. Nobody prosecuted Gore when Gore challenged the election in Florida.
I'm sure
So
that it was
why?
debunked pretty thoroughly. What's the thing about Gore in Florida?
Well, don't you remember the hanging Chad? The when the ballots were counted in Florida and Gore protested the election.
Yeah, that whole hanging Chad thing.
Yeah, we didn't prosecute him for election denial. He went through the process. He had his days in court, and so why everybody does it? Hillary said the same thing, was denying the election.
But that was just a technical error. That was just because that was back when they did hand punch, and if you didn't punch it all the way through, it didn't fully detach and it didn't count that vote. That was just that's not even the same thing though.
But he didn't get prosecuted for challenging the election, did he? He challenged the election and he didn't get prosecuted for it.
But they didn't order a new standardized recount then.
What that doesn't have anything to do with his right to challenge the election. Why wasn't Trump afforded the same right to challenge the election as Gore did?
What I'm showing is different counties were applying different standards.
Well, right. You don't have to get that deep into it. It's just the fact that Gore was afforded the ability to challenge the election without being prosecuted. Trump was not afforded the capability to protest the election without all these charges and arrests and everything else being made. So it's kind of you gotta play fair for everybody.
But I think it is important because what I'm showing is that the counties with the worst ballot design problems, which was the confusing butterfly ballot and faulty punch cards, ended up being the lower income and the black voters.
Well,
so
whatever the case may be, he still had the right to object to it, right? He still had the right to contest it, right? He contested the election, right? Yes or no? Yes or no? Did he contest the election?
I mean, I guess so. I actually don't know. I don't remember that election.
Well, of course he did, because that's why they had the hanging Chad and all the investigation.
I just remember the hanging Chad dilemma.
Right. So a Democrat is allowed to protest an election in a state, but a Republican isn't? What's the deal?
So I guess the Supreme Court stopped the recount on equal protection grounds.
Right, but completely back up. I'm not talking about the gist of the case. I'm talking about he was not charged for protesting an election. Period. End of story. He was allowed to go through the legal process.
Yeah,
Trump was not allowed to go through the legal process. He was charged criminally for protesting the election.
So it triggered an automatic recount.
That has nothing to do with his right to challenge. And it's like the old computer saying, garbage in, garbage out. If you had a bunch of garbage ballots and you counted them the second or third time, you're still going to have a garbage election. And then the fact that their numbers never matched up in Georgia. Their numbers were never matched up.
So are we talking about Florida or are we talking about Georgia? Because the one we were just talking about was Florida with Bush and Gore.
Oh, well, I'm not
those are
totally
two separate.
Up on,
those are two
right,
separate elections.
I'm not totally up on the Florida, but I do know that Gore had the right to challenge it.
Yeah, and I'm looking at it and I'm seeing that the Supreme Court stopped it because there was different counting standards in different counties. So that violated the equal protection. So there was no like standardized count.
Okay.
So they
but
just stopped it.
Was Trump afforded the right to contest the election, or was he charged with crimes because he wasn't even given his? The liberals love to talk about due process. Trump was never given his due process to get it before the Supreme Court or get it before anybody else.
I thought he did. I mean, I thought he sued about that. There was like 60 lawsuits
at the state level, and they said he had no jurisdiction. Which, again, how does the loser of an election not have jurisdiction?
I mean, they were dismissed because there was like a lack of standing or a lack of evidence.
Lack of jurisdiction.
But it was dismissed by both Republicans and Democrats, and the loss rate was like 60-1.
But the DNAR doesn't matter on the judges. If it was dismissed, and obviously now that we're finding out that there are discrepancies, how it's outside of the what I'm looking for, the statute of limitations now 5 years later, and we're finding all these votes.
I'm showing that he requested and got recounts in Wisconsin, Georgia, Arizona.
He won those. Right.
All confirmed Biden won.
Well, if they're not going to turn around, if they went to the trouble to steal the election, they're not going to go to the trouble to be honest about it the second time around. They have to cover up their first lie.
On January 6th, members of Congress were actually allowed to formally object to electoral votes, and several Republican members did. So even his own party heard it and voted it down.
How do you then explain that they got a magistrate judge in Georgia to sign off on the search warrant because there's probable cause that a crime had been committed?
I mean,
for the vote.
That's fine, but I'm showing
wait a minute. You do realize that the votes are in FBI hands now, right?
That's fine, but I'm showing even Trump's own attorney, his General Bill Barr, and his cybersecurity agency chief Chris Krebs both investigated and found nothing. And Krebs called it the most secure election in American history. And then Trump's fired Krebs.
And you believe that propaganda?
The guy that hired him
obviously
came up with that
conclusion. True. Obviously, it can't be true if the Georgia Election Commission admitted that they had 47,000 votes that were counted improperly.
There was actually, and somebody in chat just pointed it out, where he actually tried to pressure state officials to find votes. That's known as the Raffensperger call. And he was
right. So since we weren't there for the call, I can hear it going something like, look, get in there and count them votes and find me 12,000 votes.
You can hear it that way.
So how is that violating any type of a law? But we now know that there's at least 47,000 illegally counted votes. The own commission admitted it.
There's no evidence of that. There's been multiple recounts. I'm showing that's been debunked.
No, that hasn't been debunked. It was on this house or the House floor that they had the meeting
in Georgia. All right, here it is on Snopes. It's false.
I have to go.
It's false.
I'm at work and have to go fix something, but if I can come back up later, I happily will.
Sure,
thank you.
You're welcome. All right, I'm going to go ahead and show this on screen real quick. What'd you think of that guy?
He was, he definitely had a lot of trust me bros.
Yeah, it was a lot of I heard this, so you should just believe this. Which doesn't work for me ever. Here's the Snopes.
You were like actively doing research and everything. You were telling him he was wrong, and he's like, "No, it's propaganda."
I mean, the internet's great for one thing, and that's sharing information really fast. So here's the Snopes on that exact thing. Some 40,000 mail-in ballots were rejected in DeKalb County in the 2020 U.S. presidential election. That's false. It's right there. There's the Snopes. For anybody that wants to see it. I think we had somebody else in chat that wanted to jump up.
Yeah, I think it was. Well, there was this one guy begging for it. XYF Center.
I don't see any other requests. So if anybody else wants to come up, let us know how you still support Trump. And we're not just gonna take trust me, bros.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I was also gonna mention, when you mentioned that a lot of state like electoral people were like saying that Trump was like asking for like a way to find votes. I was gonna mention about his own vice president. I think it was Mike Pence that said it. Said, and I quote, "He asked me to put him before the Constitution," talking about the
I didn't even
um
hear that.
yeah. There's like clips of it everywhere. It's crazy. Yeah.
I have to look that up. I want to put that one in my quiver. Yeah, essentially, he said under oath that Trump pressured him to reject or delay certifying the Electoral College results, which Pence acknowledged would have been unconstitutional. And you know, Pence, old Pensy church boy is gonna tell the truth, especially under oath with the big with Sky Daddy.
Yeah.
He's gonna definitely follow. And please go ahead and tap the screen. If you could tap the screen for us, it helps people find the live. Also follow if you haven't, and definitely follow Jinxie here. Jinxie's cool.
I saw that Santana joined. That was pretty cool.
Santana, oh my god, I was on the that debate where we ripped apart Dave Rubin. And unfortunately my parts got cut. I didn't make it to the final edit, but it was easy. That was an easy one. That was hella easy. There's a really good case for him saying this. In his memoir, Pence actually described Trump calling him a wimp and a pussy for refusing to go along with the plan. And he said he knew what Trump was asking. Hello, Taylor.
Hello. I have a question
birthday?
for you.
What's your birthday? Housekeeping real quick.
2007, September 11th.
2007. That's
I
so...
just turned it. Well, yeah, I just turned 18 last year.
All right.
But wait, I have a question for you.
Do you support Trump?
No, I don't, but I just hear me out. Just hear me out. Do you have an animal?
I do. It's not
What
mine.
is your animal's
It's,
name?
it's my housemate's.
Oh. Well, do you love that animal so much?
Yes.
Okay, what is that animal's name?
Vimto?
Vimto. Okay. And you obviously hate Trump?
Hate is a strong word.
Strongly dislike?
Yeah, I do strongly dislike Trump.
Can I write you a song?
Sure.
Oh my.
Okay, ready?
Sure.
Oh, okay. Your name is JamieDelphine?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We are JamieDelphine. Wait, I forgot your cat's name.
It's Vimto.
Oh, we are JamieDelphine. We carry Vimto. And we fight Donald Trump 'cause he is so ugly. Okay. Goodbye.
Killer. Thanks for coming up.
That was based.
10 out of 10. No notes.
I'd give that an 11 out of 10, to be honest. That was so good.
What's up, William? What's your birthday?
What's that?
What's your birthday?
September 24th,
What year?
57.
Wonderful. And do you support Trump?
Yeah,
Can you tell us why you still support Trump?
I like his foreign policy. I like what he's doing with the country. We're going to benefit down the road.
Ooh. You think we're gonna benefit down the road?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
How do you feel about the current situation with the Strait of Hormuz?
It's open. It's not fully open, but it's open. There's still ships going through it every day. Still moving oil. Oil prices went down to $85 a barrel today. Gas prices dropped almost $1 in Texas per gallon in the last 2 weeks. We're down at $3 a gallon. We were at $3.98 2 weeks ago.
So
You have to get a fact check on that.
yeah, let me fact check that.
Hey, the Walmart right around the corner from me, right in my development, it was $3.98 2 weeks ago. It's actually $3.07, I think, today.
Hold on. What was you said it's $1 it's gone down, and you think we're gonna benefit from his policy? And that oil was how much a barrel? It was 87? Was that what you said?
What's that, ma'am?
You said oil was 87 a barrel?
Yeah, it was. It went down to mid-80s today.
Mid 80s. Because chat is even saying that that's a lie. People are like in Texas they're claiming that's not accurate. So let me just real quick fact check this.
Man, I can drive around the corner and take a picture of the sign. It's at 307 right now, and it was 398.
So just real quick, 87's not low. That's still not low.
Oh no, I know that. We were down to $2.09 before the war.
Oh, you mean per gallon of gas at the pump? I thought we were talking about the per barrel.
No, that's at the pump. I want to be right before the war. I think it was around 209. Shot up all the way to 398 about 2-3 weeks ago, and right now it's down to roughly around somewhere around 305, 307.
I mean, if it's $87 though, like it's still elevated. Like oil, like pre-COVID was like $50-$60 a barrel.
Damn. WTI crude oil right now is between $84.29 to $84.88, which yesterday was $91 a barrel.
But if oil is still at 87, consumers are still paying like more at the pump.
Well, yes, no, you're still going to pay, but it's going down. It's going down. It
but
was
if
up to 120 a barrel.
But if his foreign policy is bringing oil down, then he's going to hurt Texas producers, because it can't be a win for both workers and a win for the industry at the same time.
Okay, ma'am. First of all, at around $60-$65 a barrel, we produce very well in profits. Okay,
but it's
the
87, and it's down from when? Because like the $5 national average was in 2022. I'm showing.
Yeah, we didn't even hit the $5 average in this United States since the war. I think we went to 4 something in the low 4s.
I mean, these claims are just so wild. I'm having trouble fact checking these.
Man, I just fact checked it. Western Texas WTI crude oil is currently trading around $84.29 to $84.88, and that's Trading Economics, marketsbusinessinsight.com, oil price charts from oilprice.com, CNBC. Like I say, the crude oil is going down. As long as WTI stays at least the lowest it can go is 60. because it actually cost us about $55 a barrel. Now, when you go over to the Middle East, you're down to $27 a barrel to pull out of the ground.
I'm still, yeah, I mean, it's still like between 84 and 88 is what I'm showing.
Yeah, well, WTI right now at the present price is fluctuating between 84.29 to 84.88. That's the day range. Okay, that's the 24-hour period.
This
But
is
right now,
it was
as
like
of this moment,
it was $50 a barrel pre-COVID.
no, actually, if it was $50 a barrel, our oil companies would be losing money. It has to be $60 to $65 for our oil companies here in the United States to turn a profit.
I mean, it was consistently in the 50 to 60 range from 2015 through 2019.
Yes, that, and you know why? Because Saudi Arabia and Russia was actually having a war between them, and they were overproducing, which actually crushed the market. And in 2019, Donald Trump went over there to broker a deal between them to slow production down because they were hurting the world market.
Yeah, that's accurate. I'm Sean.
Yeah.
That actually caused massive layoffs.
Yeah, but it still saved the oil industry for the small oil companies not to go bankrupt. You had to keep, like I say, for the United States oil companies, even the little guys, they have to be roughly around $60 a barrel to be profitable and to make people work. If it goes below $60, they have to have layoffs, and it opens up the markets for the small oil companies to go bankrupt.
Cool. And it's currently like $84 to $88
Yeah.
a barrel.
Yeah, no, I know that.
But it has been $50 to $60 a barrel.
Yes, it will go down. Normally, it normally stays between 60 and 65 a barrel. As soon as they do this signing the next couple of days, if everything goes all right, you'll be down to in the 70s overnight, and it'll gradually go down from there. Well, I know Texas will be back to $2 per gallon.
I mean, it's just hard to that's hard to believe with, the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, you said that the Strait of Hormuz is open.
Yes, not completely open now. Even though the IRGC said yesterday that the Strait of Hormuz is closed, it's not closed. There are tankers that are coming out. Not as much as it's hundreds normally come out per day.
William, the only thing that I'm seeing that the Strait of Hormuz is open is the anticipated deal
No.
that lift that close of the Strait of Hormuz. That's the only thing I'm seeing. At least.
Yeah, people are saying it could increase quickly if the U.S. and Iran reach a deal, because as of 2 days ago, Iran announced closure after the U.S. attacked.
Yeah, and going off what Jamie is saying, we haven't seen any signs of any deals being made or any negotiations being made, so it will take probably a while for something like that to happen.
No, actually, it's open. I mean, it's not having the big impact, and there's no ships coming out of Iran. But the other countries are actually, there are oil tankers that are coming out. There's a whole blockade of ships, and other countries are actually in the middle of it also. I think it's England is actually refueling our airplanes in the air. So there are, right now, a lot of countries don't want to broadcast in helping Otherwise, it would cause a friction in the negotiations. But there are other countries that are actually helping. I think there's about 15 countries: Germany, France, England, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and then there's a couple of the Balkans are helping us. So we have a channel where there are ships going through, but it's not like a normal amount of ships when everything is open.
I mean, I'm showing, and someone said it in chat, and I'm actually verifying it. We're seeing like 5 to 10% of the traffic that we normally see that goes through that strait.
It's coming out of the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, I'm also seeing that.
That's not
Iran,
open.
yeah, Iran said it was fully closed, and that the negotiated settlement talks are ongoing. So it's not open.
I doubt any of those are U.S. ships. Most of them are probably like Chinese ships.
Yeah, it's probably.
It's actually 20 ships a day, and that's about 15% of what normally comes out.
Can I get a source on that?
CNBC, MSN.
Can you put a link in chat?
Yeah, it says oil tanker CEO sees Hormuz traffic quickly increasing on U.S.-Iran deal. That was June 11th, 2026, and it was CNBC that reported that. It says will not return anytime soon to the levels when 130 to 140 vessels cross daily. Right now, we're seeing 20 and a little bit above. Rising number of oil tankers are sneaking through Strait of Hormuz, analysts say. That's from MSN.
Yeah, I'm reading it right now. It said it should increase if the U.S. and Iran, Iran are able to.
But they're getting.
Okay, so is that
ships
so?
out a day.
We already kind of said that it doesn't look like it's going to be going that way anytime soon, because the U.S., specifically Donald Trump, has said that there will be no peace treaties until Iran can, quote, get that act together. So I don't think.
No, and he came out, I think, last night and said that they have a deal that they can actually work with, and the IRGC even came out and said that also.
I'm looking at the same article. It says commercial ship traffic through the Strait of Hormuz should quickly increase.
Yes.
And I'm not seeing anything about it's gone up 15%. I'm not seeing anything about it's actually happening. It's just estimates.
It's 15% of normal that's going through. It's about 20 ships a day that are actually going through. But if the IRGC said yesterday that it was closed and it's not, we're still pulling 20, maybe 25 ships a day out.
I'm showing it's like 10%.
Yeah, it says 15%, 10 to 15%.
I'm on 10%, and it's on the same article that you're quoting on CNBC, where it says traffic should quickly increase.
Yeah. So it's getting there.
I mean, it just sounds like a whole lot of cope to me.
Well, you know what? It's all negotiations. I'm sure there's ships, like even in the article it says, there's some ships that are sneaking through the Strait of Hormuz. So, it all depends on the maritime charts. If you look at the maritime charts, we'll give you actuals.
I mean, people are saying like we can't get around the fact there's going to be less oil coming out of the Middle East than what we had pre-closure. Iran and Oman have reportedly held tanks on imposing transit fees when Hormuz opens. The Trump administration adamantly opposes a toll system and the Treasury Department has sanctioned Iran's Persian Gulf Strait Authority.
Yeah, well, they basically told them, listen, if you charge anybody because it's international waters, the money that's frozen, they'll reimburse whoever pays that to Iran.
I mean, it just kind of sounds like we are on our heels, and
No, we're not. We're far away. We are not on our heels. It's a waiting game. And you know what? It's like this. Okay. Do you know anything about oil fields?
I mean, not really. I mean, I know it's a field and they have like oil derricks, and
If
that's
you
about the
have
extent
to-
of my knowledge.
Okay. If you have to stop production out of an oil field and stop pumping oil out of it, once you stop that pump, you can't just restart it. There's a whole big process you have to go through to get it back online. So if Iran chooses to do that, they're going to lose a lot of oil fields and their daily production. Right now, their reserves are almost full, but they're also moving a lot of oil, not much, but I think it's like 10%, which a normal ship would carry through rail to China. Okay, which is not cost effective. Their finances, their money is garbage. The people are hurting. And eventually, it's either going to be an uprising or the IRGC is going to have to make a deal and straighten out because they're going to lose too much. They're going to cripple their whole country. They're hurting.
I mean, they're saying in the exact same article that you told me that traffic through Hormuz will not return anytime soon to pre-war levels. It's like a credible deal should lead to a material increase above the trickle of 5 to 10 ships currently transiting the strait daily.
Yep.
So, like, we're not in a good position. It doesn't.
gonna take time,
It doesn't seem like it's going in a positive direction.
Right. But understand this also. A lot of those tankers that normally run the strait are actually coming to the United States to get the oil. And now, if you look what happened with Venezuela, we have 7 oil companies that just signed deals with Venezuela, and Venezuela is going to be back to the way they were in the 70s and 80s. A beautiful country, tourism, oil production like crazy, okay, and very profitable for the country. And then you won't have immigrants coming from Venezuela to here because their country's going to be enriched.
I mean, we've destabilized that country how many times? I'm pretty
It's
sure
not destabilized.
we've destabilized that country a few times.
Yes, but it's coming out of it's not going to be destabilized. It's actually working. Why would 7 oil companies go in there and sign contracts to start pumping oil?
I mean, we just so we literally in the 1950s installed Perez Jimenez. He was backed by the CIA in a 1948 coup that brought Marcos Perez Jimenez to power. And he was a brutal dictator. And yeah, he gave American oil companies favorable terms. But he was overthrown in 1958 because he was fucking evil.
Right. Yeah, but it's still, the country was beautiful. It was tourism. It was thriving. The people were making money. He didn't cut all the money. He didn't take all the money for himself. His country thrived. His country was beautiful.
He was just a U.S. friendly dictator. And then in 2002, we had the coup. Like, we had foreknowledge of the coup against Hugo Chavez. And Chavez was restored to power within 48 hours. The military actually flipped back.
Yeah, and that's when Venezuela went downhill, and that's when all the oil companies pulled out. Now
Well,
they're all going back.
we put sanctions on, like we literally put sanctions on, like Obama actually did that, which I'm not exactly a fan of Obama. But it's actually comically disproportionate for a country with a collapsing economy, which Trump actually escalated dramatically. We put a full oil embargo in 2019.
Yes. Okay.
He
Now,
froze their government assets.
right. But remember,
And then he
Trump-
recognized Juan Guaido, despite the fact he never won an election.
Hold it. Wait. Think about this, and I'll show you how bad Maduro was. Trump put a $10 million bounty on Maduro.
We haven't even talked about Maduro yet.
Hey, hold it. Then Biden took office and he raised it to 25 million. Why is that? Because Venezuela is very rich in oil and minerals.
That's why.
Right. And the United States benefits if Venezuela is a stable country. Okay?
We had
That's
sanctions. We put sanctions on them after
That only-
destabilizing their
Right.
government.
But
Like,
that's how you cripple a country. Trying to
Yes,
get Maduro to leave. He didn't leave, so we took him out.
we just
Biden
went
put-
after the oil.
No, it's not. No, it's actually helping business. That's why 7 oil companies went back and signed contracts.
Yes,
in-
oil. All we cared about was the oil.
No, we care about the people and the immigration.
Oh,
Do
come
you
on. We
realize-
sanctioned them into a humanitarian catastrophe. We backed a fake president. You're saying that we care about the people?
Because the president wasn't giving the money the country was making.
Exactly. It was about the oil.
No, it was about opening up the oil for the people of Venezuela. We put Maduro in there, okay? We were against Maduro.
Listen, I haven't discussed Maduro yet. We can get to Maduro, but we destabilized that country and then put them on enormous sanctions.
Yes.
Like, we caused a humanitarian crisis. Like, that, we did that. And then we tried to destabilize another election. Like, which come on, how are they supposed to trust us? Like, at all, ever? Can we just acknowledge that? I mean, that's a lot to do to a people.
Yes, I understand that, but
And so, I mean, I'll admit, Maduro, he probably rigged the election. So it probably should have been to Gonzalez. It's definitely pretty well documented. A lot of international observers reject Maduro. I mean, I acknowledge he's not, Human Rights Watches have acknowledged he imprisons and tortures people that.
We went in there in 1989. Okay. And they had fair elections. And that's when they actually did Perez in December 3rd of 1989. Okay. Then the momentum of these reforms carried over into the 1999 Constitution, which formally defined the country as a decentralized federal state.
I mean, we didn't have any problem with Maduro being a dictator, though. We opposed him because he nationalized oil for the country.
No, he didn't do it for the country. Listen, how many Venezuelans came over here because they couldn't make it there? How many oil companies pulled out because they were ripping the oil companies off?
I would argue they didn't come over here because it was they couldn't make money. I would argue there was no food because we put massive sanctions on them and then crippled their government. And then as soon as Maduro got in there, I'm not saying he was on the up and up, he nationalized the oil, and it was actually benefiting people. People people were really defensive of Maduro because like he was helping people, and I think that was the thing. Like he was nationalizing it, and I think that's why we went in and again just kidnapped him and destabilized the country. Because we don't have a problem with him being a dictator. We don't mind dictators. We put a dictator in power in Venezuela, and then we try to do it again. I think it's because he nationalized oil. Because it's like, like the Saudis, like they behead people in public squares, and we'll sell them F-15s. So
Okay.
I mean, I don't think it's the big problem was that he harms people.
No, actually, Maduro. Okay, hold on one second. Did Maduro help his countrymen? I'm going to read you this. Okay, Nicolas Maduro's governance in Venezuela resulted in severe economic decline, widespread poverty, and the exodus of millions of Venezuelans. While he maintained that his socialist policies were designed to protect the working class, international organization, human rights groups, and millions of his countrymen widely viewed his rule as a dictatorship that caused a devastating humanitarian crisis. Now, let me tell you how he did this. Okay, he got greedy with the oil fields. He wasn't paying the oil companies the proper money for them to maintain the oil fields. So they all pulled out other than Chevron. Chevron was the only one left under the Maduro regime. That's crippling a nation. Yeah, you have the oil, but you have to share the money. Okay, you have to pay for workers. We bitch about that all day long, that we don't make enough money to survive. So how can an oil company stay in a country pumping oil for the country and not making money? So all the oil companies pulled out except Chevron. Now that he's out of there, 7 oil companies went back. BP went back. A whole bunch of Respal went back. They're all gone back to Venezuela because there's money to be made. When they were pumping oil under the other regimes, the people were prosperous. When Maduro screwed the contracts with the oil companies, he crippled giving to the people because he didn't have the money coming in. So that's when he went to rugs and started shipping rugs here.
So, hold on. First off, he did have nationalized oil. I was actually incorrect. I fact checked myself. He actually didn't nationalize it. Chavez before him actually nationalized it. He inherited a nationalized oil structure.
Yes. But he restructured the contracts with the oil companies and cut their profits from 50 to 25%.
But Chavez actually kicked ExxonMobil out of the Orinoco Belt in 2007.
Yeah. But they still went from a 50% split to a 25% split, and the oil companies couldn't turn a profit. So that they pulled out. And Maduro and Chavez didn't have the people there that were qualified to do the oil.
I will concede this point. You have a point because he did fire thousands of experienced oil workers and replace them with loyalists. Yes. Now, again, I said we could get to Maduro. I've not defended Maduro. Like he wasn't on the up and up. He did a lot of things that were very politically motivated. I would not call him a good leader, but I still maintain we did not go after Maduro because he was an authoritarian. We went after Maduro because he maintained the nationalized oil system. And it's more like, because like he definitely like added gas on the fire, but the fire was started when the United States decided to sanction Venezuela. And then like first we destabilized their government. And then later on, after instilling someone that we liked, they elected someone that we didn't like, and we tried to get rid of him.
Okay,
So
but Jamie, understand this. The oil is still nationalized. It's just, and it was always nationalized.
yes,
The thing is they're paying the oil companies fair wages to bring qualified people over there to pump the oil and be prosperous and sharing the wealth. You Democrats always profess.
I'm not a Democrat.
No. I'm just saying.
I'm not a Democrat.
All the Democrats profess that profit sharing the wealth. This is what's going to happen now is Venezuela is going to share the wealth like they did with the oil companies and prosper. And they're going to get qualified people. You know how many people from the United States are going to move down to Venezuela to pump that oil and make big money and send the money back to the United States?
But again, Maduro was just pouring gasoline on the fire that was already started because we decided to put sanctions on them and then add more sanctions, because the people who suffered, it wasn't Maduro or his regime, it was people that starved because we decided to put sanctions on them.
Well,
And
we
then
put
when
sanctions on
when they
there
kept the
because they
oil
were-
nationalized, we put more sanctions on them.
No, we actually put sanctions on when he started cutting the contracts with the big oil companies to ruin the pumping of the oils.
I'm not saying that's defensible. That is accurate. Maduro fired a lot of oil workers after a strike, and he replaced them with loyalists. I guess Chavez did that. So that's not good. Like that, I'm not saying that that's a good thing to do.
Okay, Jamie. Okay, they just signed, okay, a 7 trillion cubic foot Laran offshore gas field with Shell. Okay, Shell is a UK company. Okay, they just did Hunt Overseas Oil Company, which is a U.S. company, signed agreements to operate and explore in the Orinoco Belt. Okay, they signed another deal with another U.S. company, Crossover Energy, signed agreements to operate in the Orinoco Belt alongside Hunt Oil. BP signed the contract with them in the last month and a half, and that's a UK company. Signed a memorandum of understanding and separate agreements to participate in the Laran gas field and the Coconina Manakin offshore project. SLB, US and Global, okay, signed a long-term agreement with PDVSA to help modernize and technologically revive the country's oil and gas sectors. They also signed a thing with Spain for Repsol, and Eni from Italy. Expanded ongoing operations, agreeing to increase natural gas production at their jointly held Cordon 4 field. Chevron US also expanded its heavily oil production footprint in the Orinoco Belt via an asset restructuring with Venezuela's state-backed PDVSA earlier this year, meaning that instead of giving them only 25%, they're giving them 50%, making it lucrative to bring qualified people back in the country to pump the oil and the gas. And they also we haven't even talked about the minerals that they have in Venezuela. They have minerals.
This is terrible. Like you think that we put somebody in power that pretty much sold the country out piece by piece, and you think that's something to celebrate?
Yeah, because you're only going back to when the country thrived and the people. Listen, when you take a country and you demoralize the people and you starve them to death, what are they going to do? They're going to move to another country. Where are they going to go? the United States. They hit our borders.
What do you think is going to happen to the people that live there? Like, what do you think is going to happen to wages in that country now that all these foreign countries
go up? It's
going to go up.
Okay, listen. Okay, look at it this way. Think about this. Okay, look at all the stores around Madison Square Garden during a Knicks game. They prosper because there's a lot of people. You got to buy food. You got to buy clothes. You got to buy. The people in Venezuela will benefit from people spending their money in the stores. When people don't have money, how are they going to buy from the stores? If there's no business in the area, who's going to buy? Who has money?
You know what we could do? We could just give all those union people that Chavez pulled off the fields their jobs back. I mean, there was trained, qualified people there. We don't have to bring in people from another country.
They were all from another country. He threw them all out with the oil companies, and he used statesmen, and they weren't qualified.
I mean, that is sort of what they had, but I don't think that they were like foreign people. They were like union workers that Chavez pulled off.
No, the union workers from UK, from Spain, from the United States. Do you know right now, I live in Texas, and I have a couple of buddies that are bigwigs in the oil fields. They're waiting for Venezuela because they have so many guys in the union that want to go over there because they get per diem. They don't just make a regular.
Hold on, I did a fact check and I have to correct this. They were local Venezuelan workers because the 18,000 fired after the 2002 strike were all PDVSA employees, and they were all Venezuelan nationals. It was a general strike that was organized by the opposition and oil workers trying to force Chavez out. And when it failed, he fired everyone who participated and replaced them with his political loyalists who were less skilled. I will acknowledge that is true.
Yeah, but back under the Obama administration, a lot of the oil companies brought their top people over there, okay, to run the fields. Now, what you're saying is actually the Venezuela National Company, okay? They oversee. Right, they oversee everything. But when Chevron's out there, it's Chevron people. When BP's out there, it's BP people. Now, it's just like here, okay? If you go on a union job, okay, you have union workers, and then it's a one-for-one basis when you work on a job. So you can help, if you're not part of the union, but you hold a union card, okay, they'll take one from the union hall and one from the company. And that's how they do it. So a lot of the workers, the top qualified workers, are coming from the oil companies themselves. And that's what happened when Maduro came in. He threw the oil companies out of there, and he tried to replace the top qualified people from the oil companies. And the oil companies said, wait, you're cutting us from 50% to 25%, and you want to replace our top people with your people? No. And that's why they left.
So again, Maduro inherited a terrible system that Chavez had gone against the unions. Right. Yes. And then, yes, Maduro did it again.
Because, even worse. He cut their contracts.
So, I mean, I'm not, again, defending Maduro. But what I'm saying is Maduro is just pouring gasoline on a situation. Chavez took control of the situation because we had put sanctions on Venezuela. So it's like, again, like if Chavez fired the workers and he politicized the oil company, and Maduro inherited the weaker institution and ran it into the ground through incompetence and corruption, while sanctions choked off the recovery, both contributed, but they're different mechanisms. It's the same result. It both resulted in production collapse, but it was all started because
Jamie.
the United States had
Okay.
sanctions and destabilized the government.
Jamie, listen to this. Okay. I asked, did Maduro renegotiate the deals with the oil companies? Is that why the oil companies left? Yes. Forcefully negotiated and nationalizations under both Hugo Chavez and Nicolas Maduro
I'm not
were a
debating
primary reason many major international oil companies left.
Yeah, I'm not debating
Okay.
that. I'm not.
Chavez era expropriations. In 2007, the government forcefully negotiated contracts and nationalized major oil projects, forcing foreign firms into minority stakes in joint ventures with the state-owned company, which took at least 60% ownership. Okay? Now, when Maduro came in, he dropped it to 25%, and that's when the oil company said, the hell with you, we can't do it, and left. And the only one that stayed was Chevron, because they were actually the big guys out there anyhow, and they already had people in place that worked hand in hand with the Venezuela oil company. So they stayed and they did what they had to do.
But we did it. Like, again, their economy was never diversified because oil was like 95% of their revenue. And that's just like literally like we did that to them on purpose. Because if you export one commodity, you're at the mercy of commodity prices. So when the oil crashed in 2014 or to 2016 or whichever time you want to count, like Venezuela didn't have any cushion. And that's what predates Chavez and Maduro. So Saudi Arabia flooded the market just to drive the U.S. out of shale competitors, and prices went from $100 to under $30. And we talked about that because Venezuela's entire budget was built on $100 oil. And the crash was a market mechanism. That wasn't a policy choice by Maduro.
No.
It just triggered the initial economic freefall. That wasn't his choice. He didn't do that.
Well, his choice, what happened was with his choice, which we already know in the United States, when that oil price dropped, he tried to get real small companies and giving them contracts. And we know from our own economy, if oil drops below $55 a barrel, you're having companies go out of business because they can't pay their workers because they're not making enough profit.
But sanctions didn't cause this crisis. Like, the one that we're talking about, it's like this mismanagement was already happening.
It was
blocking
actually
the debt, restructuring, and then the oil sales turned into a bad situation, to even catastrophic situation.
No, also
would have got there otherwise because we had them on sanctions.
Actually, because all the oil companies left, they had a big problem of infrastructure decay.
I mean, Chavez and Maduro, they made serious policy errors. Like, I will give you that. But those errors were made worse by a structural dependency on a single commodity. And the U.S. used those sanctions to accelerate the collapse of their government because they wanted it gone because it was nationalizing something for the benefit of the country. And Maduro did make that worse. But a country that can't diversify its economy because the global market rewards commodity exports, then gets sanctioned when it tries to nationalize those commodities. It's not just bad leadership. Like, it was us just using the system as it's designed against them. And I don't celebrate that. I think that's really gross. Like, we're just kind of turning them into our gas pump.
Yeah, but also it was also because of the Hydrocarbon Law. Remember that. Okay, because they had when we took Maduro out of there, they immediately reformed the Hydrocarbon Law. And that's why all the oil companies are going back.
I don't know anything about the Hydrocarbon Law. I'm sorry.
Oh, it was a big thing that actually, with everything else with the contracts and the Hydrocarbon Law that they were putting in for the oil companies.
I'm seeing it triggered the coup attempt.
Yes.
let me take a second.
Okay. I like you, Jamie. You're very chilled. I like it.
I don't mind discussing truth, and I'm not trying to defend the Democrats, but
No. Hey,
I feel like
we're all Americans at the end of the day.
yeah, I just feel like Trump has caused such a mess, and I don't think what we're doing to Venezuela is a good thing. I think they were trying to get on their feet, and because we had sanctions on them, it caused a really bad set of circumstances that let a couple of terrible people kind of take power that shouldn't have been able to.
Yeah, but all said and done, what had to be done, they did to help Venezuela. Because
I think they just wanted the oil.
No, but understand this. That's the triangle countries, okay? Once the oil companies are back, you're going to see a lot of movement in them three countries. Okay?
Let me see. So Chavez passed this. He passed it before the 2002 coup attempt, and the state had to maintain at least 51% in all oil ventures.
Yep.
Royalties on oil extraction increased significantly, and the profits were going to social programs, healthcare, education, food.
Right. And then Maduro came in, and with all the oil companies, he renegotiated the contracts with the oil companies. Then the oil companies said, screw you, we're moving. And as soon as they left, it was a whole cave-in of the country because they couldn't produce enough oil with the people that they had there without the big oil companies there. They couldn't do it on their own because they didn't have qualified people to step in. Think about it. When you had that many oil companies leave at once, that's a lot of people.
I mean, the thing is,
they also do national.
And this is where I want to draw I've yet to draw a line in the sand. Like I've mostly been like, all right, I agree with you here. I don't necessarily agree with you on a couple of other things, like whether or not we're going in to help the people of Venezuela. Like I'm not convinced of that. But the line in the sand for me is that we didn't care until like the law was to send the money to their social programs. And as soon as they say that like the oil profits, like at least the money should go to help Venezuela, and they had to like cede that money to the country of Venezuela.
Okay, but Jamie,
that's when we started going back and forth. That's what triggered the coup attempt. That's when I think the oil companies probably organized it. I don't know anything about it, but
Jamie, look at it this way, okay? Think about this, okay? Because
is it really a bad thing that like half the oil companies are owned by the country that's literally getting drilled into oblivion? When we've forced them to make 95% of their economy oil?
Well, no, because they also do natural gas.
Come, that same thing. Like we're just extracting resources from that country, and we're not even letting them really benefit from it.
Okay, but you and me don't really know. Okay, but look at it this way. Okay, in Trump's first presidency, he put a $10 million bounty. Now that tells you that there was issues.
That doesn't tell me anything.
Wait, let me finish. Biden comes into office and he raises the bounty to $25 million. Why? Now that you have a Republican and you have a Democrat. So both parties knew that there was an issue there. And then Trump came in, and let's face it, Big Daddy has big cojones, okay? He just goes in and does it and gets done and over with. Okay, now, let me finish. Iran, since 1986, okay, every president said what Donald Trump did had to be done. Hillary Clinton in 2012 said the same thing.
I'm not going to argue Maduro's a good guy, and I'm not going to argue that a bounty was like set unnecessarily. But what I will say is that like we didn't start going in and messing with that country until they tried to make a law that like their country gets to benefit from the oil that's being pumped out of them. And I just think that's pretty messed up. I think any human being, like if they came into your yard and just started hooking up equipment and bringing in people from another country to pump oil out of your backyard, wouldn't you think that's kind of messed up? Wouldn't you want some of the money or some of the profit?
No, because look at it this way. You know, people forget. What did we do during the Germany war against Schnitzler? Okay? He was tearing everybody apart, and we stepped in with other countries. What do you think we're doing now? We're doing the same thing. We're making the world safe.
We didn't
Okay.
we didn't step in until it was like way, way, way out of control. Like he had invaded France and
Okay, let me ask you this. Okay, if we didn't do anything in Iran, they were at 80%, over 83% enriched.
okay,
You're-
now
you're-
we're gonna switch to Iran. I just want to make sure
no,
that
no,
it's
no.
clear that
Wait.
we're switching
Yeah.
topics.
Okay, think about this, okay? We have military bases all over Europe. Now, if they ever fire, now we also have military bases in South Korea, the Philippines, Japan. Now, say Iran got a nuclear boom boom and they shot the nuclear boom boom off towards the United States. You don't think that thing would have been intercepted over Europe? And who would actually hurt with the fallout? Europe. Or if it went the other way, who would hurt? China, Russia.
I mean, the problem with this argument is that Trump kind of caused Iran to enrich uranium past the deal that it was capped at.
No, actually, no, because in 2015, when the JCPOA was made, okay, there was 3 top Democrats that were highly against the deal. They voted against the deal. Chuck Schumer is one of them.
Yeah.
Manchin is the other one.
I mean, the deal
Mendez
in
was the other one.
2015 was the deal that capped enrichment at 3.67%,
Right.
which is the big. And I know this one really well because I was there when Parker was drilling this into Dave Rubin's head. But
Okay, let me ask you this. Okay,
so I
What-
went home and I looked this up. The deal in 2015 is what capped enrichment at 3.67%. And in 2018, Trump pulled us out of that deal. He called it a bad deal, and
Okay.
he pulled us out of it.
okay, Jamie. Now, it didn't have ballistic missile in the deal. It was a bad deal. Now,
But then they resumed enrichment above 3.67%.
wait,
And now they're enriching up to like 60,
Okay.
like 90%. They have like weapons grade. They didn't
Okay.
have it before
Jamie,
that.
Jamie, who was doing the inspections for Iran?
The or the IAEA,
Okay,
the
Who is the
International Atomic Energy
right?
Commission.
And who do they fall under? Who's their governing body?
They're international.
No, they're under the UN.
Yes, they're international.
Okay, they're under the UN. Now, in 2015, after the JCPOA, more countries got involved, and the first paragraph in the UN Security Council 2231, which was a
Yes.
deal that countries signed, which included the JCPOA, but went a lot further. Now, if you look, Donald Trump in 2018 took us out of the JCPOA because in the report that came out in 2019 by the IAEA, they found Iran didn't report a lot of underground labs. Okay? And then,
But they're very like the again, the United Nations is who they're under. Like they're like the international agency that's been appointed for this. Like they even won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2005.
right, but Jamie, the same
The
country,
U.S. funds them.
Right, but the UN, the JCPOA,
We sit on their board. The U.S. has people on their board.
right, but the JCPOA was made with Iran with certain countries. Them certain countries were also part of the UN Security Council 2231 with added countries under the UN. And the UN is the one that lifted the sanctions on Iran, not the United States.
Okay, fine. But like, you can agree with the Iran deal politically, but when the IAEA, which is the organization that the U.S. helps fund, and the findings that we cite when we agree with them because they verified the Iran compliance repeatedly, if we only trust them when they tell us what we want to hear, that's not a foreign policy. That's confirmation bias.
Well, no, because actually Intel in 2018, it was reported that Iran didn't report all their facilities underground. And when the IAEA wrote the report in the beginning of 2019, okay, they said that Iran wouldn't allow them in certain bunkers that they built that they never reported were there.
I mean,
now, Trump already got the intel in 2018 and he reacted on it. And then they didn't, if you remember, Obama actually released $100 billion to Iran in assets and money.
but it's like sure. Okay, Iran
Now you're
has
all
a history of
complaining.
concealment.
Right. But
But
all
that's why
complaining
verification matters.
now. Right. But now you're all complaining that Trump is releasing $24 billion.
Because we had the most intrusive inspection that we'd ever negotiated with Iran. We
weren't
pulled
being
out, we
honest.
lost all of that access.
No.
And now we have no inspections and no
No.
access. And they have weapons grade enrichment.
We still were following the UN Security Resolution 2231. They still had the IAEA reports every year and the inspections. Under that, that was with the UN.
But all of this happened before the deal or after Trump withdrew from it.
No, the JCPOA was in 2015, and the right after the JCPOA was signed, the UN Security Resolution was also 2015. Right after it, it superseded. That's why Trump pulled us out.
But they were in compliance with all of the terms of
No,
all
they
the declared
weren't.
sites. That's what
They
I'm
weren't.
saying.
In 2019 report, they found sites that they didn't report, and they weren't allowed to go in there.
Fine, but an imperfect deal you can verify is better than no deal that you can't verify anything.
Hey, listen, if you and me sign a contract and you break part of the contract, the contract's null and void.
Yeah, but if it's a contract to find dynamite and I get to look everywhere that you could possibly hide a dangerous stick of dynamite, but there's like a small crevice that you won't let me look in, that's better than you not letting me look anywhere.
But they still looked up until 2025 because they still had to follow the security resolution through the UN.
But they were enriching weapons grade. You're right. Like, sure, they let us look, but now they have the means to make boom booms.
Right, but you see,
And Trump
that
caused that.
But that came out. No, what caused it is when Biden lifted the sanctions in 2020, because in 2021 is when they started enriching because they got the money.
No,
from Biden.
Trump is the one that pulled us out of that deal.
Yes, but they didn't start enriching until after Biden gave them the money in 2020, 21, in 21. And that's when they started enriching.
But it was the deal that stopped them from starting the process to enrich. It was after Trump pulled us out of that enrichment deal because they wouldn't enrich past the 6.7%.
But the Security Resolution 2231 covered
Or I'm sorry,
the JCPOA.
I misspoke. The 3.67%. There was there was a deal up to 2015, and there was no deal. And then once we had the deal, that capped the enrichment at 3.67%. And then it wasn't until 2018, after Trump pulled out unilaterally, that they weren't enriching above until like the next year, sure, but it didn't start until we pulled out of the deal.
Okay, yeah, but no, listen, okay? The Security Council Resolution 2231 was adopted July 20th, 2015. United Nations Security Council Resolution formally endorsed the JCPOA, the landmark nuclear agreement between Iran and the P5+1 powers, which we know is Russia, okay? It established a schedule for lifting UN sanctions in exchange for limits on Iran's nuclear program. Okay, so it was already, even though they cut the deal in the JCPOA, when they did the resolution, it was the same guidelines.
But but that's the JCPOA. We had prior to that authorization from the IAEA, which was again an international agency that wasn't possibly politically compromised. They were the gold standard.
Right, but the JCPOA couldn't lift the sanctions. That's why the UN had to lift all the sanctions under this resolution, which actually added the JCPOA, and it was signed. Okay, it detailed the lifting of previous UN nuclear-related sanctions and created a dedicated procurement channel for nuclear and conventional trade. The snapback mechanism, a vital safeguard built into the resolution, allowed participant nations to swiftly reimpose suspended UN sanctions without facing a Security Council veto if Iran violated the deal's terms. So once they had that, they didn't report areas that the IAEA, which is from the UN, found that they violated the JCPOA and the UN, Trump pulled us out. So, they violated it. And that's why the UN didn't complain.
But after he pulled out, what happened? Did they not start enriching up to weapons grade? Isn't the goal to not allow that? Wasn't the whole point to prevent that?
Right, but Iran didn't have money because if you remember correctly, when Trump came in and he dropped the JCPOA, he put heavy sanctions.
Okay.
And their money was going downhill. And then Biden came into office and released all that money, and that's when they started enriching. As long as you kept them broke, how are they going to work with no money?
Sure. Iran wasn't at weapons grade enrichment when Trump took office in 2017. Sure. But they are now. And it happened on his watch the first time, and it accelerated after he withdrew out of the deal. So you can't blow up the fire suppression system and then blame the fire. Like, he started the fire. He literally pulled us out of the deal.
He pulled us out of the JCPOA, but he didn't pull us out of the UN. We were still under the UN Security Resolution, which actually lifted the sanctions, and then he put the sanctions back on.
Okay, wait. I'm actually showing. I just looked it up. Every single escalation step Iran announced was explicitly framed as a response to U.S. sanctions and withdrawal. And that's not an interpretation. Iran said it publicly each time that it started exceeding the 3.67 cap as a direct response to the U.S. withdrawal.
We start enriching to weapons grade. Okay. Now, in 2021, when they got the money from Biden that Trump froze on them, okay, they actually, by the end of 2021, they were up to 20% enrichment.
Yeah.
They were up to 2021, while Trump was in office, they maintained the 3.4 or 3.6%. As soon as they got money under the Biden administration, they took off enriching. So how can you blame Trump? If they were going to enrich, they would have enriched in 2019 and 2020, and they didn't.
They
because-
did. They
No.
began exceeding the 3.67% cap, and they stated publicly that it was a direct response to us withdrawing
When
from
did
that agreement.
Iran start going above the 3.6% cap? Now, according to
2019. And they stated publicly because it was Trump pulled out of the IAEA agreement.
No, actually, they did it in 2019 to 4.5%. Okay,
Yes, they
and
did.
that was for what they needed for energy, not for. Okay, they didn't start enriching to 20% until 2021.
Yes.
And then in 2024 and 2025, I think one report in 2025, they found some uranium that was at 83%, but most of it was around 60%.
But you were just telling me a moment ago that they did not pass the 3.67 cap in 2019.
Yes, but Iran actually went and announced they had to raise their enrichment purity level to 4.5 as part of a phased reduction of their commitments under the agreement. Now, if you remember correctly,
Because we withdrew from
Right.
the agreement.
okay,
Exactly.
Okay, one of the other biggest things about the JCPOA was ending in 2025. So from 2025 to 2030, they could have enriched as much as they wanted. We can't allow that because of the situation. Personally, we're in America. There is not going to be one thing that's going to reach us with nuclear on it. We have so many.
Never say never. But what I do want to point out is, again, my claim, and we've proven it, was that when Trump pulled out of this agreement, that's when they started enriching above the cap that was previously in place.
Right.
And then once that program had started and began ramping up, it led to modern day where they now have weapons grade.
4.5% uranium enrichment.
We literally had access to search most of the sites, except maybe a couple under mountains that honestly would be really hard to get equipment and supplies down to, in and out. Any type of infrastructure would not be efficient. And so we then withdrew from that agreement that was at least keeping it to the point that we knew we were safe. And now your argument is, oh, well, because they announced it was for energy after Trump pulled us out of the plan, somehow it was okay. I don't understand your argument.
What you're representing is because the United States pulled out of the JCPOA deal, that there still wasn't a JCPOA deal. You have to remember there was 6 other countries still part of that deal. Just because the United States pulled out of it, there was 6 other countries that still were part of that deal with Iran. It didn't kill the deal. It's just the United States didn't want no part of it.
They literally said the reason they started exceeding the cap was because the United States withdrew from the deal. That's the stated reason.
That's their MO, but still, they had the JCPOA was still in effect because they had 6 other countries part of that deal.
All I'm saying is if that was a concern to keep weapons out of the hands of Iran, which you're claiming that's why we got over there and got involved in the first place.
Okay, but
then
how many
withdrawing, if we're supposed to be the police of the world, as you claimed, like we did with the Germany situation, World War II, then why didn't we just leave that agreement in place that was maintaining that situation? Now that Trump has pulled out, it's destabilized and escalated, and now
okay.
And you still support this guy,
Jamie? Okay, China, France, Germany, Russia, and United Kingdom were all part of that deal. Because one party pulled out of that deal, you're blaming a man that felt the deal wasn't right. There was Democrats that knew the deal wasn't right. So why would we honor a deal that was crooked, okay, when you had 6 other countries that could have helped them?
Because it was a deal that was keeping nuclear weapons out of a country that has a very itchy trigger finger. And while I don't think we should be the police of the world, limiting their creation of one of the most devastating weapons known in the history of mankind, amongst the agreement of multiple international countries, seems like it was a good thing. And I think pulling out of that agreement, which then they very publicly admitted, triggered them to start ramping things up. I think that's a bad thing.
Okay, I'll give you that. To you, it's a bad thing, but still, when they started enriching, why didn't Russia step up? Why didn't China step up? Why didn't France step up? You know what? Personally, I don't care, because all them countries, if Iran gets a nuclear boom boom, they're suffering, not us, because we have enough. Listen, I'm prior military. I served my time overseas.
That tracks.
Okay, I know what we have over there. Okay, there is nothing coming across.
A lot of bases in a lot of places.
Yeah. Okay, I was stationed in Italy, Germany, Spain. Okay, and I'm going to tell you something right now. There is nothing that's going to come off the land and come across the water before it's not intercepted. Now,
what about orbit? What about lower orbit?
If they got a submarine or a ship getting close to our coast, I'll say, yeah, we got to worry. But what we're doing is we're not going to take the chance of Iran sending one of them off. We take it out, and the fallout would be over them countries, not ours. We would get the
But
air.
Again, this wasn't a problem until Trump pulled out of the enrichment deal. They were really compliant.
Tell me when Iran ever negotiated in true faith, where they actually honored
an imperfect deal where we could see like 99% of places was better than one where we just can't see anything.
We did it. No, the IAEA held inspections up until 2025 every year.
Yes. No. We ended the IAEA agreement.
No.
We withdrew.
No.
2018?
No. Go to the IAEA and look at every report every year of the inspectors going there to Iran. They just did a report in 2025. That's when they reported 60%. So nothing that we did caused any fallout on the whole deal. IAEA inspections every year from 2019.
So yeah, no, you're right. Because again, I'm not super familiar with this. I keep having to fact check this, but
Okay,
they
so
did
what?
continue inspections.
Exactly.
UK, France, Germany, Russia, China,
Yes.
EU. Iran remained technically in the deal for about a year after the US left,
Yes.
hoping that they would just provide enough sanctions relief to make it worth staying.
Exactly.
But then the US imposed sanctions so aggressively that the European companies pulled out of Iran anyway.
Right, because what happened was, okay, when the UN with their resolution did unsanctioned, it was $100 billion they got in 2015.
I'm showing that by 2021, Iran started restricting their access to certain sites.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
like, we pulled out, and then the deal started going. Like, okay, they still kept going, but it's not like they could even see everything. Like,
Right,
because we
because
pulled out,
you
they
know
couldn't
what?
even see everything.
Right, but think about it.
Holy
What is
crap.
your-
I'm showing that by 2022 and 2023, they'd removed IAEA cameras and monitoring equipment
Yes.
from facilities.
Yes.
So again, this is all damning Trump because the
How?
Board of Governors passed a resolution censuring Iran, and Iran responded by blocking additional inspectors.
Right, but why didn't China step in? Why didn't Russia step in? Why didn't the EU or France or Germany? They did nothing.
Well,
So in other
frankly,
words, you're saying- okay, wait, hold
we
it,
kind
Jamie.
of caused this problem.
Jamie. Okay, you're complaining right now that we're in Iran. But
We're
if we
already
stay-
there.
Right. So if we stayed in the deal and they messed up, and Biden had to make a decision to go into Iran like Trump is doing right now, you think he would be doing it? No.
I would be okay with it if it was a violation caused by Iran, but it wasn't.
But they've never lived up to any deal they've ever signed.
They were allowing us in 99% of their facility, like 99%. And
That we
anything
knew
that they
of.
were hiding would have been negligible. It wouldn't
Right,
have
but-
been like this. Like now they are like weapons grade, and we're having a discussion of what we
Well-
can stop intercontinental ballistics and such. This is all Trump's fault. And I don't understand
No,
how
it's
you're trying to
not.
spin this as not him withdrawing from a deal that was working.
No, but it's
was
not.
working.
It wasn't working.
It was working.
No, because it didn't have ballistic missiles in it.
They didn't have enough material to make weapons. You already said they didn't have enough material to make energy.
Jamie, once first of all, Obama gave them $100 billion in assets and cash. Then in 2021, Biden released the sanctions that Trump put on them. That's when they were able to do what they did to enrich it to where it's enriched today.
Listen,
But listen, everybody's using Trump as a scapegoat and blaming him when you should be blaming Iran for not living up to the agreement that they have with the UN.
They were doing the 3.67 enrichment rate, and we withdrew, and then we put sanctions on them, so they stopped complying altogether, and then they started restricting access, and now they have weapons grade enrichment, and this is all again because Trump pulled out of the deal, and the IAEA kept trying to inspect. Iran kept trying to let them so they could let up on the sanctions, but the deal became economically worthless because the U.S. sanctions. So we didn't just cause the enrichment; we dismantled the inspection regime because that was the only thing keeping us informed about it. That's the complete answer.
Jamie, no, listen to this, okay? Now, when Biden came into office, he lifted the sanctions that Trump put on them. Now, you would figure the United States gave them a deal, okay, gave them back some money, okay? So be honorable and stick with your 20%, what you had in 2020. Okay? But our government became passive, just like Obama, and they took advantage of Obama. The diplomacy. It didn't work in 2015. It didn't work in 2021 because after Biden lifted all the sanctions that Trump put on him, they went and enriched more.
But the whole thing, it started because Trump pulled out of the deal. And
Doesn't matter.
What you're referencing was in 2023, the Biden administration did a prisoner swap. And that was 5 American citizens held in exchange for 5 Iranian citizens held in the U.S.
It's just everybody wants to blame Trump.
Yes, because he withdrew from the deal.
But that didn't cause them what
They
caused
even
them.
said it caused them to start. Like they publicly stated that's what caused them to start enriching.
Okay. IRGC just publicly said the Strait of Hormuz yesterday was completely closed. Why is there 20 boats that left the every day, and it hasn't stopped?
It's
Now
shut
it's
down to
totally
like
closed.
5% of the traffic. I don't.
No.
That's
10 to
not an
15%.
argument that it's open. That's an argument that it's a trickle.
No. They said yesterday it's completely shut down, and it's not. It's back to it's staying steady at 10 to 15% every day of the ships, which is roughly around 20 ships a day get out of there. A safe passage.
But there was like 100. There was over 100 ships a day.
130 to 140 ships a day.
Then
So 20 ships.
how is this
about
open?
15%.
That's not. Open.
That's open for the purpose of they're not booming the ships. They're not sending mines out in the water, and they are getting ships out of there.
They're letting
At
the
one
ships
point-
through who pay.
No, because Trump already warned them. You cannot charge people in international water, and they're not.
But Trump caused all of this. Like this whole thing is Trump's fault. So I don't understand how you still support this man. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Because I don't see it his fault. If you know about Iran, they never live up to any deal they've ever made.
But they were. Like we had international
No, they
consensus. Every country was in agreement. Okay, maybe there were sites that we may have found traces of material, but it was like there was only like 1 or 2, and it was like, how were they ever going to make a significant amount when it was inside of a mountain? It was such an inefficient operation. And they only had 3.67% enrichment. So we knew they were in compliance. It just doesn't make any sense. Why would we pull out of that deal? How is that a bad deal? How is this not his fault? If the deal that he pulled out of, they publicly stated is the reason they started ramping up enrichment. And then after he imposed sanctions, which further caused inspectors to withdraw, now they're at a full weapons grade. And that is Donald Trump's fault. So I don't understand how you can say it's not. And I can't understand how you still support him when he's just honestly a really bad negotiator, and he's caused a really bad international situation, and he keeps making it worse. And our economy is tanking.
No, it's not.
The economy's doing terrible under Trump.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
How?
The average person can't afford groceries.
No, that's a talking point.
What do you mean that's a talking point?
Because groceries went down before the war. Groceries went down considerably. Gas went down considerably. The reason it's so expensive right now, but it's still not expensive in the biggest year under Biden.
Heading into 2025, inflation had come down from the 22 peak of 9.1. It was around 2.5-3% by late 2024.
No, actually, when Biden left off, it was 3.4.
It was like, okay, it was 3%. And unemployment was low. It was around 4%.
Yeah, and unemployment's 4.3. That's not a lot.
It's like
That's not a lot. 4.3 is great.
But wages have not kept pace with
Oh,
housing
yes,
costs.
that's where you're wrong. Wages actually went up. And if you take wages that went up compared to the cost of living, it's still 0.3 to 0.5% above normal. Okay?
Okay.
So, it's all talking points, but if you do the homework, and then if you look at groceries, okay, beef has gone up, yes, because since 2010, ranchers with the droughts and everything else, they're not producing the amount of cows, beef for the amount that's sold, plus the demand. 85 to 90% of the beef that we grow here in the country stays in the country.
Where are you getting this information? Could I get like a citation?
Yeah, let me pull it up.
Because the tariffs alone have completely trashed the economy. Like, nobody's experience matches what it is that you're describing right now.
What percentage did salaries go up under the Trump administration second term?
It's such a wild claim.
Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Average hourly earnings, this is under since Trump took office, for private sector employees increased by 3.7%, and weekly earnings grew by 4.3% during the first year of President Trump's second term. When adjusted for inflation, however, overall real wage gains were recorded at 0.1 to 1.3%, depending on the specific economic metric used. So even though you have inflation, salaries went up enough to cover that cost. So, when people say, oh, people can't afford groceries, you afforded groceries during the the Biden administration when inflation was up to 9%. You were still buying groceries.
I mean, that's okay. I hear you. I hear you that I do actually see that stat that wages are outpacing inflation. However, that gets completely swallowed because the cost of inflation is accelerated to a 3-year high of a 3.8% increase. So there's higher grocery costs, spikes in electricity bills, mortgage rates, and those rates are back above like 6.3%. So those are completely eroding any of these wage gains that you're like describing.
Well, nobody's really buying houses unless it's brand new. And if you buy a brand new house, you're not paying 6-7% mortgage. You're actually getting a mortgage under 5%. They all have incentives. Some builders are actually giving you 3.99 the first year, 4.99 the second year, and 5.9 for the next 28 years. And then that gives you enough time when the economy comes down to refi.
I mean, this is a perfect storm though, because like right now there's like houses it's kind of a seller's market. So prices are high. Mortgage rates are hovering above 6.3%. I already covered that. And there's actually a severe shortage of homes for sale. I'm not sure if you're aware of that.
Only old homes, not new homes.
I mean, there's just like record high home prices right now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're through the roof.
So, I mean, nobody's able to afford a home right now. I mean,
but remember this, when you say record pricing on housing, it's only in the cities that are booming, which is Texas, Florida, South Dakota, Las Vegas, Arizona, because everybody's, and even, it's really funny because even though you hear reports about California losing so many people, they're also getting a lot of people. So it's balancing out. They really haven't lost that many people. But like in Texas,
nobody's leaving California.
Well, they are leaving, but they're getting some people there from other states.
People leave it. Like there's migration.
Yeah, and like Texas, everybody.
Migration is natural. People naturally migrate. All animals naturally migrate.
We went from 29 million people to 32 million people in 5 years. So that's why we redistricted the state of Texas, and that's why we could do it, because we need representation for our people.
I hear you, but like nobody being able to afford a home, affordability being down, like the cost of utilities and everything way outpacing any kind of wage gains. This is terrible. Like the inflation is a 3-year high of 3.8%.
Jamie, let me ask you a question. How old are you?
I'm 38.
Okay. So you remember the crash in 2005?
Oh yes, I was there for the crash.
Okay.
I was
Now
there
think
for the
about
big
this.
crash. The big crash. This is the first time it feels like the big crash since the big crash.
Okay. Now think about this. Houses normally go up 3% a year. Okay, the value of your home. It was always an investment. Now, I had a house that was $289,000. I bought in 1999. In 2010, that house was worth $89,000. I sold the house in 2021 for $315,000. So you're telling me the house that I paid $289,000 for, 20 years later, 22 years later, I made nothing on it. Houses are supposed to be this high right now. They had to balance out. And we can actually thank Clinton for producing it and Bush for bailing it out.
I mean, housing is currently selling at its lowest levels in decades. There's like almost a near total freeze for first-time home buyers.
Oh, yeah, because people are waiting. That's why people are buying new houses, because the builders can actually offer you 3.99, 4.99%. Now, I bought 4.25% to 4.5% is a normal mortgage.
Do you know that we have surging national debt? We have a projected federal budget deficit of $1.9 trillion. It's raising at an unsustainable pace.
Well, you also have to factor in a lot of different things that are happening.
Like rising costs of utilities, historic home ownership lows.
Well, I laugh because
the highest inflation rate in 3 years.
I remember when I bought my house in the 70s, and it was 15% interest rate, 12 to 15%. So you're talking about 6%. I laugh because the first house I bought, it was 12 to 15% interest to get a mortgage.
I know. Yeah, but how much was the house worth then?
Oh, back then it was like $70,000.
And so, I mean, you had 15% on like $70K, and people are paying 6% on like
I remember this salary
$200,000-$300,000. Like, you gotta realize, like, families can't afford that.
I was making $80 a week.
Housing's been commodified to the point to where like a family just can't afford to buy a house. Like, do you realize how much things have changed since when you bought your home?
Well, do you believe that we're in a transition overall in this country, like we did in the 80s, late 70s, early 80s? You don't remember far back. That was when computers came out. And bookkeepers were losing their jobs because they were being replaced by computers to keep the books and keep all the filing and the file things. It all went on computers. Then it was a big boom for IT techs to run them computers. So it eliminated two jobs, the bookkeeper, and it eliminated the filers. Okay?
Sure. You will never get me to agree of like firing workers. Like I'm always going to side with the workers.
Right. But they did because their jobs were obsolete. What do you think AI is going to do? We're in a transitional period. It's going to happen again, and it's going to roll over, and it's eventually going to work out in the long run, and the fittest will survive.
I mean, we're in a renaissance. I'll admit we're in a bit of a renaissance. I don't know that it's going to be a good one. And I don't think it's going to work out in the end, as you say, because we are currently in the world of Amazon and Uber Eats and Lyft, and you can't get a job anymore that can actually pay so that you can buy a house. And it's really, really, really bad. Like things are really bad, and Trump is not trying to fix them. He's actually accelerating them and making them worse. And I think AI is going to accelerate it even beyond that. And I don't understand why you're in the camp of like Trump and Elon and Mark Zuckerberg. Why are you on that team? It doesn't make sense to me, I guess, especially seeing as to hear you identify computers taking workers' jobs as a bad thing. I agree with you on that. How are you on Team Trump?
Why? Because I see his vision, and as a businessman, I see it working down the road, and it makes me at ease for my kid and my grandkids.
What is the vision that you see? Like, how is this supposed to work out when we're barreling towards unaffordability? Nobody can buy a home. How is anybody supposed to have any kind of job in the AI future where nobody gets to own anything? What is the vision? Please share it with me.
You know BJ's restaurant?
BJ's Brewhouse?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I have a friend that works there as a waitress. She just bought $500,000 on her salary and got approved. Okay? So, yeah, if you hustle, you can make the money. But I watch barmaids, I watch restaurant. They just go to a job. They don't put a smile on their face. They're not impressionable. They don't really want to be there. They just want to make the money. They bitch and moan, oh, they only gave me a $10 tip on a $100 check. Okay? But this girl gets $20, $30 on a $100 check. Okay? Because she goes there and she smiles and she socializes. She talks to them.
So the vision is that some waitress at BJ's Brewhouse bought a $500,000 home, and if she can do it, everything is going to be okay.
Yeah, it's when you work, you do your job, and you don't resent your job while you're doing it because you'll never advance. Hey, when somebody tells me I can't do it, I prove them wrong that I can do it.
Okay, so to recap, you grew up at a time where you were able to buy a home for $70,000, and interest rates and salaries were competitive, and in a ratio nothing like they are today. We have a president that has caused the cost of living to skyrocket, inflation to go up, and you think everything's just going to work out given that we agree on everything that I just said. You, as a logical business owner and an adult in the year 2026, think given this set of conditions, everything is going to work out. I still don't understand how you're coming to that conclusion logically.
Okay, I'll tell you. Very simple. When you lower the gas price, okay, everything else comes down. Food prices come down because transportation. When you don't have to spend that money going to your job, that extra money, it's more money in your pocket. Now, let me ask you this. Why during the holidays, like Easter vacation, it was record people going on vacation? So if the economy is so bad, why? Now, you can't travel now because gas prices are up. That means traveling costs more. Everything revolves around gas. We all know that. Buying supplies, getting the supplies from point A to point B. You know, people talk so much about tariffs. 99% of the people on TikTok don't know of anything about tariffs. They hear a talking point. Do you know do you know how many different tariffs we have?
I know that we essentially put tariffs on countries we didn't even have tariffs on.
Okay, but okay, 99% of the people on TikTok say blanket tariffs. No, there's 4 actual specific tariffs. There's specific tariff, there's ad valorem tariff, there's a compound tariff, and there's a tariff rate quota. Okay, now it all depends on the product. And the question I ask people, you take a $10 pair of jeans at Walmart that comes from China. China has a 30% tariff on it. How much are the jeans? You know how many people tell me $13? And it's not, because the tariff is only on what the manufacturer in China sells it for, which is $2.50. So 30% of $2.50 is about 80 cents. It's not even $1 more. But what compounded with that, and compounded with the gas price of transporting that from the ports and coming overseas, and then coming to the distribution center, and from the distribution center to the stores, the gas, the transportation cost is raising that price. Once you get the gas price down, that tariff is going to be meaningless.
So, you know that economic analysis has confirmed that these tariffs added between $1,000 and $3,000 in cumulative costs per American household. You know that's a fact.
Okay. Do you know Atlas Global Management?
I'm not familiar with Atlas Global.
Okay, they're worldwide. Okay? There's a guy who's an economist, top-notch economist, Torsten Slot. Okay? He actually wrote in an op-ed, okay, has Trump outsmarted everyone on tariffs? Read the article. Okay? He's part of Apollo Global. It's Apollo, not Atlas, I'm sorry. Apollo Global Management. And his name is Slok, S-L-O-K.
So, do you remember that initially Trump said that domestic retailers or that foreign exporters were going to be the ones that absorb the costs?
No, actually, the way it worked, and listen, I own a business. I get.
So he didn't say that.
I deal with China, India, and Mexico for a lot of my parts.
So he told us it was going to raise prices, or did he tell us?
My $60 motor went up to $61.50 with the tariff from China. 30%.
Prices for goods have gone up like 8.5% in some places. The average effective tariff rate is like 7.7% by the end of 2025.
Right, but Jamie, look at it this way. Okay? Everything, what is it? 85 to 90% of the stuff that you buy on Amazon comes from China. So, how many stores in America does Amazon really hurt because they undercut? Now, it's just like when you buy something from Amazon, it looks the same as something you buy here. The difference is the quality is so much less. So I do a thing with a battery. Would you buy a battery off of Amazon from China that's going to last you 2 years at half the cost, or buy a battery here that's going to last you five years for double the cost?
I mean, this is the same, like,
no, it's not.
This is the same act that like Trump tried to do, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, and the Supreme Court ruled that the move was unlawful.
No, they actually said that what he put it under was the wrong law. Okay? And he had to adjust it, and they adjusted it to the right law.
Like, there are companies that are utilizing the U.S. Customs and Border Protection portal to claim billions in court-ordered tariff refunds. So it was ruled that this was unlawful and that we're paying back company, like it's costing taxpayers. So what he did was not supposed to be done.
Right, but technically not, because we actually put the tariffs under a different law and we're collecting the same amount of money. So it's just going to be a refund, and then they haven't even figured out how they're going to refund it.
So they've actually found that the tariff rate by the end of 20, let's see, the long-term models, according to the Tax Foundation Project, project that the remaining permanent industrial tariffs will permanently drag down long-run U.S. GDP by 0.3% and drop hours worked by the equivalent of 254,000 full-time jobs. So his tariffs are literally dragging the economy down.
Okay, now, when you are an economist, you look at what's coming in and what's going out. Yes, it will, but think about all the products that'll raise the GDP. What do you think? What do you think when we start producing chips? What are you going to?
So the volatility that he caused because he did this.
It's temporary.
No, I mean he caused like huge costs in rerouting supply chains. Like there was a surge in operational expenses worldwide. That's actually documented. So nothing he's done has helped anything. He's just shaken things up, made things more expensive.
Jamie,
I don't understand. How is this? No, wait a minute. Let's go back to your other point. You said that it's gonna work out. How is this supposed to work out when it's literally proven he's dragging the economy down? I still don't. I'm not sold.
It's temporarily drawing the economy down, but there's things in place like, okay, we're producing more coal. We just actually opened up a coal mine. Okay, we actually just opened up 2 reactors, nuclear reactors that were shut down in 2023. Okay, We're setting up a lot of infrastructure.
Chad is calling you out. They're saying that you're changing the subject to get off of that subject.
No. I'm telling you the things that are in play to compensate for what is happening now. Because when it all stable, I'm a businessman, okay? You have to invest money to make money. All the chip manufacturers that are moving here. You have a big company in Arizona by 2030 that'll be making batteries for the EV cars. Okay, I'm sorry, not Arizona, Henderson, Nevada. Okay, there's going to be a big battery. They have many minerals in the mountains in Nevada. They're looking at different areas in the United States to get these minerals. They're looking at other countries.
So what I'm actually finding, I'm just going to have to stop you right here. I fact checked this while you were giving this. I'm actually seeing that the U.S. EV market's in a major retreat and that manufacturing jobs are actively declining and automakers are taking multi-billion-dollar losses just to pull out of EV production. So the massive financial write-downs are that Ford, General Motors have announced $19.5 billion and $6 billion in EV-related write-downs. They're halting production. There's foreign plant delays. Toyota delayed the start of its EV production in Kentucky. There's eliminations of tax credits. So the administration eliminated the $7,500 federal tax credit for new EV purchases. So mainstream consumers have stopped buying them. The EPA rollbacks explicitly designed to allow Ford and GM to shift capital away from making these EVs have actually backed them more into high margin gas powered SUVs and trucks. So it's actually the opposite of what you're saying.
No. You see, you're 100% correct. And I'll tell you why. Because Ford actually was the first car manufacturer that stopped EV production under the Biden administration and told Biden to screw off. We're not making any more. Okay? I own a lot of Ford stock. I vote on their board. I know everything you want to know about Ford. They actually paid off what they invested in 1 year.
I got to push back on that too. I'm showing the data shows the opposite of trends occurred under Biden during his term. And the automakers did express nervousness about consumer demand. The widespread collapse, cancellation of factories, and multi-billion-dollar write-downs are happening now under Trump. Because the administration under Biden actually passed the Inflation Reduction Act, which poured billions into U.S. factory construction. And I'm not a proponent of Biden. I don't necessarily like the Democrats. But they triggered an unprecedented boom for the EV industry. It was like $127 billion in battery manufacturing.
Right, but they're still going for the hybrids, which is part battery and part gas.
But there was plants being built. There was jobs being created. The economy was growing. Now we're slowing down.
Yeah, because you know what? Nobody wants to buy an EV car.
No, the GDP is slow. Like the country is slow. Like our productivity as a country is slowing down under Trump.
Yeah, because we're in transition of building. Do you know?
Now, under Biden, we had a huge recovery. We had like 800,000 manufacturing jobs. And again, Biden's not perfect. I'm not a big Democrat fan, but
excuse me.
We weren't heading this direction. This is the wrong direction.
Excuse me. Most of them jobs were people returning back to their jobs over after C-19.
But
okay.
800,000 manufacturing jobs.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure it was that factory construction boom from the $19 billion that they put into the EV battery industry. I'm sorry, $127 billion that they put into the EV battery manufacturing industry.
Okay.
And again, I don't necessarily think Biden's like a great leader, and I would have rather have had I don't know, Bernie Sanders, but we weren't like,
Okay.
our GDP wasn't shrinking.
Out of 775,000 jobs, manufacturing jobs under the Biden administration, 349,000 were only new manufacturing. The rest of them came from people coming back from C-19.
Fine. That's fine. I will concede half of them were new. But still, half of them were new. And that's pretty impressive compared to losing factories, losing jobs, losing our GDP. Like, do you understand how bad of a leader you have to be to stall the GDP of the richest country to ever exist in the history of the world? Be damned. Like, that's actually quite impressive of how terrible of a leader you are, in my opinion.
Jamie, we're in a year and a half into Donald Trump's presidency.
A year and a half. Like, that's
Okay.
pretty deep.
Okay, Jamie. Okay.
Whatever he
Now-
would have done should have kicked in by now. I'll go ahead and just
No.
put that on the table.
Oh, really? We have 7 chip manufacturers, Samsung, all here in Texas, that they're building the plants right now in Dallas, Houston, 7 of them, chip companies, all manufacturing jobs. Okay? We have Tesla building a manufacturing plant here in Texas. They just built a Tesla plant, I think, in Las Vegas, North Las Vegas, Nevada. Okay? Right now, in the state of Texas alone, between San Antonio and Austin, Texas, they're actually building a viaduct.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you right there. All this funding was approved under Biden.
What are you talking about?
All this was approved by the CHIPS
Some
Act.
of it was.
The
Yes.
Federal Chips and Science Act, which was passed and signed into law by Joe Biden in August 2022.
And what is the Chips and Science Act do?
That puts $40 billion into companies like Texas Instruments and sites in Sherman and Samsung's $17 billion facility in Taylor. They were legally and financially locked in years ago, not by Trump. He had absolutely nothing to do with it.
What companies benefited from Biden's Chips and Science Act? Okay, Intel, Arizona, New Mexico, Ohio, Oregon.
So now the thing is,
hold it.
they are building those facilities.
Wait, hold it.
However,
This
there's a
is-
25% tariff on
Wait.
specific imported semiconductors and advanced computing equipment, which is
Hold it.
making their like they can't finish it very well. Like, it's very expensive.
Okay, now, like I said, this is under the Biden Chips and Science. These are the companies that benefited. TSMC, Phoenix, Arizona. Micron Technology, Clay, New York, and Boise, Idaho. Texas Instrument received only $1.6 billion to build a new fabrication facility in Texas and Utah.
Do you know how much $1 billion is?
Okay, wait, hold it. Global Foundries, New York and Vermont.
Hold on.
Wait,
Do you
wait,
know how
hold it.
much
Let me
$1 billion
finish.
is?
Let me finish. SK Hynix secured $450 million in direct funding alongside $500 million in loans to build an advanced chip packaging facility in the U.S. They haven't even built it yet. Okay, so I just told you 7 chip manufacturers actually are building right now, and there's only one company under the Chips and Science Act in Texas. So how can you say the 7 chip companies that are here in Texas came from Biden?
Because it created a $1 billion state fund.
No, they didn't get no money from the Chips and Science Act.
If it's in Texas, they did.
No, they didn't. Okay, I just named the companies that got money from the Chips and Science Act. And there's only one company, which is Samsung, which actually is a semiconductor. And it's only an expansion to the semiconductor manufacturing campus in Central Texas. Plus, they're putting another one down in Houston, which is not part of the Chips and Science Act.
So what I'm showing is that the funding's being distributed across several tiers of the semiconductor industry.
Yes, but none of them here. They're only expanding Samsung's semiconductor business already. They gave them a couple of billion dollars to expand it, but there's 7 companies building here. How many tech companies are moving to Texas right now building?
I mean, all this CHIPS money, the billions of dollars, was approved by Biden. I'm not saying all of the companies in Texas. I'm saying there was 6 major semiconductor and supply, like tech supply corporations that have money in Texas. And that includes Samsung, who got $4.74 billion. Texas Instruments, they got $900 million. Sumica Semiconductor Materials got $52 million. A company called XFab in Lubbock got $50 million. There's a company called Coherent that got $33 million. And there's a company called IntelliEPI, which is Intelligent Epitaxy Technology. They got $10.3 million. So all this came from something Biden approved.
Yeah, okay. We have 200 major companies that actually relocated in Texas, okay, since 2020.
So
right
I don't think this is a pro-Trump argument, and I hate to admit it kind of sounds like a pro-Biden argument, but it does.
Okay, no, because right now in Austin, Tesla is in the process of building a gigafactory and headquarters. Oracle and Apple are building its massive second largest campus.
And hold on, real quick. I just want to touch this one because a lot of people don't really quite understand. Do you know how much $1 billion is? Like, do you quite understand how much more $1 billion is than $1 million?
Yeah, but you said everything was under the Biden administration, and it's nowhere near it. And what about the big semiconductor manufacturer, the largest in the world? They're moving, I think, to Arizona. That's under Trump. How about all the money that Japan said that they were going to send over here and start building?
Okay, again, Biden put the CHIPS Act into effect so that the money was there to attract these builders.
No.
So that yes, that is a fact that is established. Then on the opposite end, Trump's tariffs are making it almost impossible for them to operate because they have to buy machines and specialty equipment. A lot of it can only be purchased outside the United States. And now they have to pay these like 25% tariffs. So again, as a business owner, as a logical human being, I don't understand how you support somebody that's making everything worse. Like, he's just factually making like, he's not a good leader. He's made really erroneous, random decisions that have resulted in catastrophe, even though somehow you're trying to tell me this looks like it'll all work out. Everything is projected to slow down and get worse and get more expensive. And you still support him?
Yes, let me ask you, do you know TSMC?
No.
No? Okay. They're the largest contract chip manufacturer in the world. Trump got them to they're actually building their largest gigafab manufacturing cluster in North Phoenix backed by a pledge of $165 billion investment. Donald Trump got that. You know how many jobs that's going to produce? Do you know how many jobs all of the companies coming to?
Okay. I will concede that Trump courted them first, but Biden got them funded. Again,
That's their
the
money.
CHIPS Act is what's going to fund the subsidies.
No, this is their money
Yes,
that they're paying for.
The CHIPS Act awarded them $6.6 billion in direct grants. So even if Trump courted them,
TSMC?
Biden is the one that funded and financed it and figured out how to pay for it. So honestly, it was both of them. If you want to give credit on this TCSM deal, but
Ma'am,
TSMC.
do you know the difference between $6 billion and $165 billion?
They announced only a $12 billion plan to build the microchip factory in Phoenix. It's a $12 billion plan.
It's actually a gigafab in North Phoenix, and it's a $165 billion investment. So what is $6 billion when the company is actually investing $165 billion? They were building a small plant, but Donald Trump actually went and negotiated and got them to invest a lot larger amount of money.
So I have it right here on the semiwiki.com, the announcement of TSMC's construction. They've shared plans in 2020 to build a $12 billion site in Phoenix, Arizona. And I have that on screen right now. It's $12 billion. And the U.S. Department of Commerce is going to fund that up to $6.6 billion under the CHIPS and Science Act, which was done by Biden. And that's going to bring 6,000 jobs, more than 20. Again, if you're going to give credit, it's more accurately both of them.
No, it's not.
It was Biden that funded this.
Okay. They had, $12 billion facility?
12 billion.
Okay.
That's with the B.
Trump went and got them to invest $165 billion.
Where are you seeing that?
That's actually right from Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. Let me see. You have GSMC.com. You have National Association of Manufacturers.org. You have CNBC. And this is all since January of 2026.
Wait a minute. So, and I'm seeing this. So he used national security to threaten them with tariffs to get them to commit to an astronomical amount of money. And this is your guy?
Yes, he got it done. He got it. And look at how many Americans are going to have jobs.
But it was paid for initially by Biden. Like,
no.
Even though Trump is using like dictator-like actions to force these countries into our whims, you don't think this is going to have long-term blowback? Like, as a business person, you're like, oh, this is going to work out in our favor long-term. Like, you honestly believe that?
Let me ask you this. A company like that, to invest $165 billion, you think they're going to fail?
I'm not saying they're going to fail. I'm saying this is not a negotiation in good faith. This is not something that's been set up with best interests in mind. Like this was an extortion.
Ma'am, what does it do for us? It actually has employees paying taxes
I consider and I worry about the blowback on something like this. Like
What
strong
blowback?
arming a country. We
It's their money.
strong armed them into this deal.
Actually, it wasn't strong arming. Actually, you know what did it? And Biden didn't take advantage of it. It's when China said that they were going to attack Taiwan. Okay, and the owner of the company said, "You know what? Donald Trump is making a good deal for me. I'll move my business to the United States and screw China. Let them attack Taiwan, and it won't interfere in my business. I'm the largest in the world." Now, you know how many years China has been saying they want Taiwan and this guy don't want a dictator. He'll pay his taxes. He'll pay the United States. He don't want a country like China to take over his business, and he has nothing at the end of the day. Come on. It's just common sense.
I just think it's really risky. I mean, we literally have we're basically inviting China to just invade like Taiwan. That's kind of what you're
China
pitching.
keeps saying they want Taiwan back.
So
Come on, it's all over the news. 2027, they're going to attack Taiwan and take it back. That's what they keep on saying.
So given what you're saying, I want to be clear like what you're saying, because I actually am kind of following a thread of logic here. Chat's trying to say you're making stuff up. I think you might actually be onto something here. Given what you're saying, and I'm going to acknowledge this is true, it's a huge company. So from what I'm seeing, and because we're debating this, I've been researching it while you're talking. TSMC is essentially, that is their largest like company. Like that is their tech economy, more or less. Like at this point, they can't invade Taiwan, because if they invade Taiwan, that would collapse their own tech economy. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
So what you're saying is that we are setting the stage so that the chip company is here. And so that's going to make the invasion of Taiwan far more likely.
It's in other words, it stops World War III, because if China invades Taiwan, then we get involved. But people don't realize Taiwan is heavily armed. They are very heavily armed.
No, you're proving the opposite, because like right now, microchips are pretty much exclusive. Like Taiwan is kind of like,
Yeah.
that's it. So you're saying that if we get them to build this mega center, that will no longer be a monopoly. There is no longer any reason for China not to invade Taiwan.
No reason for China to invade Taiwan.
No,
because
sir.
there's no value.
I see it the opposite way
Right, but
around.
There's no value then. Why would what would China want with Taiwan after that? There's no value.
Because then,
No, because the semiconductor business moved out. There's their whole premise of attacking.
so as of right now, Taiwan having that industry exclusively
Exactly.
puts China in an advantageous position. By moving that advantage and taking it away and giving it to someone else, China no longer has that advantage. So now it's like, fuck it. Why not invade Taiwan? Do you see what I'm
Why?
saying?
What are you going to gain out of it?
Because
What are
they
gonna-
don't have an advantage anymore. So what does it matter?
Because if they actually took over Taiwan, they'd have control of the semiconductor business, which I think that company does 95% of the world. They produce 95% of the world's semiconductors.
Okay.
Okay. Now, that was the biggest draw for China to take over Taiwan. Now the company went from 12 billion to 165 billion of their own money to build a mega plant in North Arizona which is booming right now. And it's going to open up so many jobs. More people pay taxes. The company pays taxes
Okay.
because it's an American-based company.
So what you're referencing is known as the silicone shield. And it's sort of what geopolitical thinkers reference as the reason, like the number one reason why China doesn't invade Taiwan.
Yeah.
And this actually would remove their silicone shield, and it would make the Chinese invasion much, much more likely. It also alienates a democratic ally through the tariff extortion, which we've done. And it concentrates our entire tech security by putting it in Arizona, in the desert, where we already have power grid vulnerabilities. And you're saying that this is going to bring jobs to that place where we already have these vulnerabilities. This is good. This is working out for you. This is the golden landing pad that you saw.
Yeah, and I think it would deter China from going into Taiwan.
I don't. I think it pretty much puts a target on Taiwan and says, hey, there's no longer a reason for you to not attack because you've lost your advantage.
Jamie, let me ask you this. If you were the owner to that business, would you want to be in a hot spot? It's a business decision.
What I would say is, let me explain it this way. You don't want to piss off America. America owns the banks. That's the world right now. As of right now, their economy hinges on Taiwan being so geographically close and being an advantage that they can just they can make manufacturing. They've dedicated themselves to doing manufacturing, and having that tech partner right there, that chip partner, because of the travel distance, because of the logistics, they're in such a prime key advantage. There is no sense in disrupting anything. Now, let's say we move that advantage over to the United States. Now the United States also has it. Not only is the person that runs all of the banks not letting you run the banks, they're also taking away the one major advantage that you have in the world, which is that your partner that makes chips is right next door and you're a manufacturing powerhouse. So why not just fucking disrupt the whole world, take Taiwan, take those chip manufacturing plants for yourself, and then build your own fucking thing on your side of the planet, because America already made it to where you can't fucking compete.
Yeah, well, now that once the chip manufacturer, that company moves here, the chips go down less.
Not really, because like I explained, China's next to Taiwan, and that's a major advantage in manufacturing and transport. And if we put it in the middle of the desert in the United States, now we're just increasing crazy logistics. Like, again, Trump destroyed logistics chains. They're still recovering. This is not like a good thing. This is not a positive outcome to chart our ships towards. Like, I in no way agree with your assessment that it's all going to work out and that this is good. This all seems it's been bad, and it seems like it's getting worse, and it seems like we're setting up the conditions to really just have everybody hate us and give away all of our advantages. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but look at it this way. To actually ship semiconductors, you don't put them on a ship because you don't buy that amount. You don't put them in a container. You put them in a box or a couple of boxes and ship it UPS, FedEx, whatever the world transportation is. Put it on an airplane, and it's there overnight. Okay? So as far as the cost of shipping, okay, it's minor. As far as the owner of the chip company, he's like, hey, is China going to attack? What's going to happen to my business? What's going to be this? This is a decision that the owner is making, and I applaud him to actually go against China and move his business before China does attack, because if they do attack, what happens to his business?
I have a question
What
for
happens?
you. I have a question for you. Where are iPhones made?
China.
How
India.
expensive? How expensive do you think it's going to be to buy an iPhone made entirely in the United States?
Well, now that it all depends on our tech people, because now we don't have to have chips coming from overseas. Once you get
Again,
Samsung,
if we make the chip here and then we have to send it to China to make the phone, and then the phone comes back, that's made
why
logistics
wouldn't
worse.
we make them? Why wouldn't we make them here?
Then we have to have like labor conditions, hourly rates, like
Jamie,
the labor standards here are going to make things way more expensive. That is just a fact. And I don't understand who's going to absorb those costs and
Okay,
how you
Jamie.
think that's going to work better for the average person.
Jamie, think of it this way, okay? Every year iPhone comes out with a new version. It's always a couple of $100 more each year, okay? Now you tell me, because you made the camera bigger, wider, or you added some stupid app or something on that iPhone, it's worth a couple of $100. Now, think about this.
That's a private company. It's individual people's choices whether to buy it or not buy it.
Okay.
I'm not going to justify their pricing model. What I'm saying is, if we now take that efficient and what has been running as like the manufacturing hub of the world, China, right next to Taiwan, because China does the manufacturing and Taiwan does all the chips, and now we disrupt that, and now we put it in the US where we have higher labor standards. How is this all supposed to help?
Okay, very
Americans?
simple. Very simple, Jamie. Okay, you have Samsung in China making the iPhones, making the phones, okay? Now, all their technical people make really great money. All they use is the labor to put them together. With the new AI coming out, you can have manufacturing lines made by machines putting these phones together like they do with the cars now, just at a smaller scale. It's funny because half of these cars made today don't require a person, a group of people putting things in. I was just looking.
So your answer for the increased cost of goods is that AI is going to do the jobs. And your argument a moment ago is that this company is going to bring jobs. So which is it?
Yes, it's going to bring technical jobs. It's going to be certain jobs for people to put the phones together. But the actual manufacturing, once the board is set, there's people, you can't replace people putting the boards together. That, and even in China, you don't have Chinese workers at bad wages putting them together. You have technicians.
So the reality is that there's like a 25% tariff on imported advanced tech, and we threatened 100% tariff just to force them to do this. This was, again, coercion. But operating this factory in the United States is going to be 40 to 50% more expensive than operating it into Taiwan, just due to labor costs alone, the regulations, the supply chains. And by shielding these high-cost U.S. factories with massive tariffs, the government's ensuring that we will pay significantly more for smartphones, laptops, cars, smart appliances, because companies, they're going to pass those costs off to production.
Okay.
That's going to the consumer.
Here you go. Here you go. I just Googled, okay? The average worker in China working for Samsung makes between 42,000 to 98,000 a year. Your execs make 140,000 a year. Your top, the specialized engineering roles commanding upwards of 140,000 a year. That is average for what we do here.
You want to know the unfortunate truth is that these advanced semiconductor manufacturing jobs actually require highly specific, highly hyper specialized engineering PhDs that the US labor market simply does not have in large numbers. And TSMC's already faced massive pushback from American labor unions in Arizona because the company frequently flies in thousands of its own specialized workers from Taiwan on temporary visas to set up and run the factories, leaving fewer high-tech jobs for local workers than promised.
Okay. Actually, all your the average base salaries typically range from 79,000 to 144,000, depending. That's software engineers. That's in China. Okay?
Yes, and we're going to fly them here.
Okay. No, these guys. Okay.
We're not hiring local people for this stuff. Like if we put
will.
a giant semiconductor plant in the middle of Arizona, it's also going to take millions of gallons of water per day just to clean the silicone wafers. And that's just literally putting a very massive tech hub in the middle of a desert state that's actively facing historic droughts.
Okay. Now, the actually sales and marketing make 42 to 68,000 a year.
Again, the majority of the jobs are going to be highly specialized, hyper specialized PhDs.
Right. And that's 80 grand to 100 and almost 150 grand.
So you're looking at the big corporate investment numbers, and I'm going to ask you to be on the side of the American people because you're missing the bill that's being handed to the American people. Because to keep these factories alive, we're going to have to pay higher taxes for local infrastructure. We're going to have to deal with strained power grid. We're going to have to pay permanently higher prices for every piece of technology we buy because American-made chips are going to be vastly more expensive to produce. So I still fail to see how you think this is going to work out for Trump and how this is moving in a direction of favor. I still think Trump is a terrible leader. I think he's taking us in a terrible direction. It's not going to work out. This is not for the American people. If you're fighting for anyone right now, you're fighting for American corporations. That's what your argument has been on the side of this entire debate.
No, it's business.
Business.
And
American corporations.
Right. But
and that doesn't necessarily help people.
Right. But it produces jobs. It actually opens up schools.
No, it's going to fly jobs in from Taiwan. I just proved that.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are, because we don't have enough people because the current administration is dismantling the Department of Education.
Ratio for employees in Samsung in China.
All right. Well, I think we've about run to the end of our debate. But I want to thank you for your time.
Actually, 17,000 workers in Samsung in China.
I mean, again, we're strong arming a company that quite literally gives them a shield from invasion to put one of their largest companies in our desert. This is all bad.
Isn't Samsung opening up 2 manufacturing hubs in Texas right now?
But again,
why can't they move out of China?
Well, for one, Samsung is a South Korean company. I just want to correct you on that. You keep saying
no. Samsung. I know they are. Yeah, they have mostly South Korean workers. Now, if they go from South Korea to China, why wouldn't they come to the United States on an H-1B visa?
I'm sorry. We're just splitting hairs now. Like, Biden was the one that made these factories possible and profitable and brought them here. And then when that was already starting to occur, Trump just kind of strong-armed them with massive tariffs to kind of finish it and get it done. And it's not a deal that's going to work out in our favor because it's forcing them to do things that don't actually make sense business-wise. So I appreciate your time to like talk through everything. It's been a super complex issue with a lot of moving parts. And even though we do definitely see the direction of the country differently, I do always value hearing this perspective of other people. So I do want to thank you for your time.
I appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and end it here. That is another Debate Fridays. I think we covered a lot of ground. We didn't end up coming to much of an agreement there at the end, but we did agree on a lot of points. I learned a lot. I honestly did not understand about the silicone shield concept until today. So shout out. I received an email that randomly told me that I was the number 32 political podcast in Taiwan. So I am really interested to hear from my audience in Taiwan. I'd love to get some feedback and your perspective about the claims that I've been making in this podcast. Because if you're not aware, these debates will actually go live. You can find me on wherever you find your podcasts. It's called Debate Fridays with JamieDelphine. Thank y'all so much. Oh, he was in Texas. If y'all are curious where he was from, he said it earlier in the debate. If you missed it, but if you like this kind of content, please be sure to drop me a follow. I find it extremely revealing when we do talk to the other side. The other side for me is the capitalists. A lot of people call me a Democrat. I am not a Democrat. I am a scientific socialist. I do believe that we are better served in politics when we find out where the money is coming from and who benefits from that money. And that for me is the most important aspect. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. We will be back next Friday for another Debate Fridays with JamieDelphine. Thank you so much. And don't let the bastards grind you down. I'll see y'all on the next one. Oh, by the way, be sure to check out JamieDelphine.com and be sure to check out all the exclusive deals you can get from my brand partners at JamieDelphine.com/deals. Thank you so much. See y'all next Friday.